Hey there, so I'm just hanging out in front of my house. Wanted to talk a little bit about the revision process and some things that you should be thinking about as you are moving towards that revising step of your paper. If you've done the invention and you've done the drafting and you're at this point where you want to try to get things a little bit more in shape for the turn-in of the assignment or whatever else you're doing in your rhetorical situation, these are some good things to keep in mind. And this comes from chapter 10 of Lisa Eads, The Academic Writer. I think these are really good tips. They're really simple, but I think they're also very implementable, and I think there are things that will help you overall as you're working on your paper. All right, so the first step on this is just simply to take a break between the draft and the revision. If you are trying to immediately jump into the revision after you've done the draft, that can be problematic. That can create you're a little bit jumbled after you've done a draft, so you want to make sure that you just give that a little bit of space, let yourself reset, and come to the revision from a little bit more of a good perspective. And then also you want to think about preparing mentally to do it. I mean, again, there is some kind of challenging work that goes into the revision process. So you just want to make sure that you're prepared as you do that. And then you also want to print it out at some point. The idea with that is that if you are looking at the words on a page, that can be sometimes a little bit different than seeing them on a computer screen, and you might see some things that you would have missed otherwise. I also suggest when you're doing that to just go ahead and copy the whole thing and put it into a different font, right? So that'll make it look a little bit different. And then read it out loud. That can be really good, especially for syntax issues, right? So you can catch some syntax mistakes that you might not have caught otherwise if you're actually kind of following along and you're speaking and you're hearing the language out loud. Again, as I talk about often in my classes, we initially learn language as native speakers through listening, through hearing, through speaking, and only then do we attach that to the written word. So sometimes it can be really, really helpful just to hear it, right? So you can catch grammar mistakes, syntax mistakes that way as well. And then Eid also talks about kind of three different areas. She talks about this idea of focus, of content, and of organization as the kind of three main things that you will deal with as you're going through the revision process. So focus is basically just, did you meet the needs of the assignment? Again, on that peer editing checklist, that's kind of a question one area, right? So just, are you doing what you need to do? Is it meeting the parameters? Is it meeting the needs of your rhetorical situation? And then you get into content a little bit more, right? So again, this kind of idea of, is it developed enough? Is there enough there? Do you need more research? Do you need more support for what you're doing? And then finally, organization. So that's just kind of matching up the thesis compared to what you have in the rest of the paper. So if you think along those lines, that might help you to diagnose things a little bit more too, right? So as you're reading, think about, okay, is this a focus issue? Is this a content issue? Is this an organization issue? All right, well, I hope that's helpful. And again, there's lots of stuff in chapter 10 of The Academic Writer, not just what I've covered, but if you don't have access to the book, or if this is for a completely different class that I teach, those are helpful things that I think will help you as you work on making your papers better.